Just let everyone get in 1 sec and then we'll get started. Right then. Right then. Everyone's getting in now, yeah. Alright, so I'm slightly late in joining. I think everyone's coming on. So there is a bit of a structure to this. Apologies for those who were on the live feed there. Bit of a mishap. So what I'll do is just give it another minute or so. Corey is here yet. Spent. So again, if you do want to share this. Alright, hey Andy, what was your favourite match you played while at Sunderland? Right, okay, so I'll do a bit of a structure to this first rather than just going off on a kind of tangent. So Turf, I'll bring that one back in a bit. So the highlights will be the second part of this. So the first part, what I'm going to do is I'll just tell you a little bit about my career. We'll spend 5 minutes on each section, and then if anyone's got any questions at the end, so there will be questions. So if you want to ask me any questions about my career from youth level, so grassroots level, junior level, all the way to professional level, I'll just give you a bit of a background insight into how I got into football. I know my mum's watching on this as well, but I was around. I was always a good little player, what have you, but at the age of 12 I had a massive setback, which I think kids have to realise nowadays. You will have setbacks in football. And the setback I had was I was playing for my county team and I didn't get picked because I was too small. So you have two options at that point. You either fight or you're never going to make it. And one thing that I always say to kids is it's down to you as a player to get the best out of what you have in your toolbox. Now your toolbox is up to you. Your mum and dad can't give you a toolbox, but like the live sessions that we're working on, you have to work on your toolbox. So for example, working both feet. I was a winger, alright? And to be honest with you, I wanted to always be able to play with both feet. And probably up until the age of 25, I didn't put enough focus into my right foot, even when I was playing in the Premier League. So again, from an early age, I had a setback. And that setback, I believe, is why I went on to play, because I thought I'm never going to have anybody tell me I'm not good enough again. So what ended up happening was I just played grassroots for 2 or 3 years, and I was playing for Droylsden. Scored quite a few goals, and then my mum wrote letters off for trials. So funnily enough, I ended up getting a trial over the Pennines at Huddersfield Town, but didn't really enjoy it there. And then Stockport County, who were in the Championship at the time, invited me in for a trial there just after Christmas, and the rest is history really. There I went into a youth programme with them, and then 2 years later I made my debut in the Championship against Millwall for Stockport, and I was 8.5 stone ringing wet through. So I studied the game, and I think that's a big thing for kids. You've got to live, breathe, eat, sleep football, because it's a massive thing. When people say to me, oh, my kid loves football, everybody loves football. Fans pay to go and watch football and they love it. But there's a difference when you've got that desire to get to the top. You have to go above and beyond. At the age of 16, I didn't go out drinking with friends, or I didn't do things that probably most 16-year-olds did, because I wanted to be the best. So I knew I had a game or training the next day. So that led me on to my professional career. By which point I ended up playing, I think, 5-6 years at Stockport, and then Sunderland signed me. And at the time, Sunderland were in the Championship. So I've gone from a club that you know was a fantastic club, and I really loved Stockport, but I've gone to a huge club in Sunderland, who at the time were fighting to get promoted back to the Premier League. So again, another challenge. But I can then go in my toolbox and say, well, I've been there before. I know that I've got to fight for my place. I'm not letting anyone tell me that I'm not good enough. I'm going to fight for my place again. And sure enough, I got in the team, made a number of appearances that season, and we ended up winning the Championship, and we got promoted to the Premier League. So in the space of the age of 12 to 20, so in 8 years, I was playing Premier League football. So that is my journey there, in terms of fighting for what I had and not letting anybody tell me that I wasn't good enough again. But you've got to give your kids a toolbox, but they've also got to work at that toolbox. All right. In terms of where I went from there, where I ended up playing for Leicester City. I went out and played in the MLS for Toronto FC, which was a fantastic experience. And then I came back and played at Yeovil Town, which I had a good 3 years there, made over 130 odd appearances. And then went to Carlisle and ended up finishing at Scunthorpe. So that was my career as a professional. But I'll take questions on that now. Corey would like to know how far you went in the FA Cup. So the furthest I went in the FA Cup was the quarter-finals, I think it was. But again, some great memories. My first ever game for Sunderland was in the FA Cup against Crystal Palace, where I scored a free kick at the Stadium of Light. So I've got real fond memories of the FA Cup. And the FA Youth Cup, when I was a young lad at Stockport, scoring the winner against Spurs at Edgeley Park. Any more questions on the career, so the youth to the pro level? So now it's up to you. You ask me anything you want, parents. You know, that's what this is for now. So I will get on to, I know there's a couple asked about playing against. What is your biggest ever achievement? Or Jack Green would like to know how many goals you scored for Leicester, and what did it feel like playing for such a big club? So at the time, Jack, Leicester weren't the club that they were. They'd been relegated from the Championship, and I actually went on loan there from Sunderland. So I played 10 games and I scored one, which was live on Sky Sports, funnily enough, again against Crystal Palace. Age-wise, mate, when did you join? So Andy shoots. Age-wise, when did you join? So when did I join? Well, I didn't join an academy. It was the age of 16. I went in, signed for Stockport in their YTS programme. Jenny Murray, when you were at Sunderland and played against Liverpool, why did you get sent off? Because I'm from Manchester. No, I'm only joking. So basically, it was Liverpool's first ever game back from when they won the Champions League, and it was my second ever appearance in the Premier League. So fantastic game, really enjoyed it. 75th minute, there was a bit of a coming together. Louis Garcia, you might all remember him, who used to celebrate putting his thumb in his mouth. He went into a challenge with Julio Arca. I kind of came round the side and we kind of just clashed. The referee gave me a straight red card. Umberlich should have never been a sending off, and it actually got rescinded the following day so that I could play against Man City on the Tuesday, which I did. So that was you know, I'm glad it did get rescinded because I didn't want to lose that opportunity. How many times a week did you have to practice from Errand homes? So every day. Normally, a normal training week would be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, then a game on a Saturday. You'd have the Wednesday off. But again, this is what I'm saying to those that want to get to the top level. I'm a big believer in when those are sleeping, you've got to work, and you have to work. And the guys over in Manchester, Mike Clegg and Stephen Clegg and Michael Clegg, one of my good friends who's now head of strength and conditioning at Manchester United, and his dad was head of strength and conditioning at the time. I used to go and work with them on my days off, and also in the summer I would also go and work with them on my days off as well, just because I wanted to be fit, the fittest and the strongest. Never going to be the strongest, but I mean strongest in that no one was going to run me into the ground. So when did you end your career, Vicky Stanell? So I stopped in 2015. I actually made a brief appearance for Rossett Albion, you might all remember, back in 2017, where I played about 8 games and got 4 goals, but then I stopped playing because I was the manager. Next question. Logan, how did it feel playing in big stadiums against big teams? Well, that's what you dream about, and until, you know, I remember one of the biggest games I played in was the Tyne-Wear derby at St James's Park for Sunderland. So you might find some pictures on Google and things like that now. But what an experience! 52,000. Remember, my mum and dad and my wife were up in the heavens and couldn't even see them, couldn't even hear anything. But I remember running out onto the pitch and thinking, this is it. This is why you want to be here for these big games. You know, playing Manchester United. You know, I know a lot of you have asked me about playing against Ronaldo because he was on my side. So we played Ronaldo. We played Man United at the Stadium Light for Sunderland, and we lost 3-1. But they had an unbelievable team. They won the league that year. They had Rooney, Van Nistelrooy up front, and I'm a Man United fan, so playing against these types of players was an unbelievable experience. But they're just a completely different level. I remember the ball came out to me from a corner, and I had an opportunity to turn and get a shot in, so I thought, I've got time, I'm going to turn and I'm going to get that shot in. By the time I turned, Edwin van der Sar was at my feet with a ball in his arms. And that was how quick the top players think. So there is a big difference at times as well. So I'm just scrolling through some now. What was your favourite club you played for from Connor? I really enjoyed Sunderland because we won things. Really enjoyed playing for Toronto FC in their first ever season. Really enjoyed playing for Yeovil. Stockport. I enjoyed playing football and I enjoy different challenges. Can you explain to us mere mortals the speed of the game in the Premier League as a player? Yeah, so I always get asked this question, and the difference is, because I played against, I know there's a lot of Leeds fans on here, I played against Leeds United a lot at Ellen Road when they were in the Championship. That isn't a dig, by the way. But the speed is different. They'll give you a lot of space in the middle third, but as soon as you get to the final third, that is where the top players become the top players. That is why the strikers and your Ronaldos and your Messis, they're all on top money, because out of nowhere they'll find, and I'm talking a millimetre of space, to score a goal or go past someone and create something. And there is a huge difference there. To put it into perspective, going back to the Man United game, we had a corner, so I took a corner. Corner came in and it came back out to me. I went to cross it, and I think it might have been John O'Shea or Rio Ferdinand blocked the cross. Rooney picked it up in his own half, and before you know it, probably 5-6 seconds, he was that quick at that age, he'd scored. He'd scored. And I think that put them 1-0 up or 2-0 up. But I remember playing against Rooney when he was at Everton as well for Stockport in the Carling Cup at the time. And again, he's, for such a young age, I mean, he's smaller than me. But he's just an absolute powerhouse. So hopefully that's answered your question there, Lee. Rio wants to know who was your toughest opponent. So my toughest opponent, alright, so some of you might remember Jeremy, Cameroon international. He was a tough opponent. So when I played Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, there's so many top players out there that you play against. I mean, if it's on direct opponents that you play against, there was Emmanuel Aboué coming through at Arsenal, and he was just a different level. We played packed out stadium, like 49,000 against Arsenal, their kids at the time, but they had Sol Campbell playing, a mix of kids and older ones, and then Aboué played, and he could go left and go right. And I remember at half time, Mick McCarthy's gone, stop letting him go on the outside, show him inside. So I'm thinking, first minute, right, I'll do that then, I'll do that. So I've showed him inside, and he's unleashed an absolute rocket into the top corner with his left foot. So it just goes to show, you know, these top players, they work at the game and take chances as well. So that was probably my toughest opponent, just because it could go either way. Hopefully that's answers your question, Rio. But in terms of probably who the kids know now, obviously Ronaldo was a top player. Rooney was outstanding on the day when we played Man U, but probably the best player on the day was Paul Scholes by a country mile, and I managed to get his shirt. How did you find the step up from grassroots? To be honest with you, and I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, but I don't think grassroots football at the age of under 15s and under 16s now is what it was back then. And certainly over in Manchester, it was very strong leagues back then. So the step up, it was just a case of you have to find your feet at anything. To go again and get better as a player, you have to accept that you may have to almost accept failure to get better, if that makes sense. So from Bo, what was your best moment at Sunderland? So the best moment at Sunderland by country mile, we won the league, won the championship and got promoted to the Premier League. Funnily enough, one of my old clubs, we played Leicester, and we won promotion on that day, and it was just an immense day. So much emotion from the football club and Mick McCarthy, who I owe a lot to, and all the players. But you know, the celebrations that night were outstanding, and something that, you know, I'll never forget. So definitely getting promoted to the Premier League and probably making my Premier League debut with Sunderland. Who was your most difficult opponent? I think I've answered that. Alex, what was the pace of the Premier League? Different to the Championship? I think I've answered that. So we're kind of getting on into the highlights now, which was the second part, I think, here. What's your biggest... answered that one. What's your biggest regret in your career? Regret, I mean, regrets are... I don't think I regret anything in my career, to be honest. You make decisions, probably you look at clubs that you've moved to and you think, have I made the right decision there? You know, I remember making a move from Toronto back to come and play in the Championship for Blackpool. We were settled out in Canada, but it was difficult for my wife because every away game was a flight over to the USA. So for example, if we were playing in Los Angeles, we'd fly out on the Thursday and I won't be back on the Sunday. But we did get used to it, but it was, you know, I got an opportunity to come back to England with Blackpool, and I did, and I'm not saying I'd regret that, but it was a great experience out in the MLS. Also probably had a great time at Yeovil, was fans' favourite down there. Just came off the back of getting a Player of the Year award as well, and I decided to move to Carlisle because I thought it was a bit closer to home in terms of Manchester. My daughter Lily was just born at the time, but it's not really a regret. It's more, you know, was it the right decision? And you make decisions based on you at the time, really. Let me have a look. I'm just scrolling through. So Erin Holmes, how did you find joining a team or training with different people and them getting to know you to become part of a team? So I went on loan a couple of times, so that's probably a question there to be answered. So you know, when you do go on loan, it means you're getting used to a whole new environment, whole new set of lads, and a whole new squad. But again, once you cross that white line, it should not matter who you're playing with. And I go back to, if you think about all the foreigners that come and play in England, some of them don't speak English. But as soon as you start playing, people go on about it that football is a global language. So it is. It's just a case of getting used to everyone getting used to you and you getting used to them. But the biggest advice I would give on that, Errand, is be confident. So if you're not confident, people read into that and think, oh, well, you know, if you don't believe in yourself, nobody's going to believe in yourself. So you have to have that mindset. And I think that's something that we're going on to here, which is, you know, when you're having a tough time, how do you build that mindset? And that's something that, if you want to get your questions in on that, I'll help you on that one. So Spencer Harrison, to show how hard it is to make it in the game, how many of your youth team at Stockport went on to make it a career in the game? Good question, Spen. There was actually, I think there was only 2 or 3, to be honest with you. 2 or 3 players, and it is difficult. And probably going now into the academy system at the age of 5 and 6, they are taking them a lot younger. That is a long time. You're starting here, your end point is here. Now, I'm a big one on this side of it, is Man City, Man U's, Liverpool's and that. They are taking them early, trying to develop them, which is great. But there's also those kids that are late developers, and there's also the players like me, who might not have had an opportunity like that, but have more heart and desire than someone that's been part of the system from the ages 5 and 6. So do never, ever, ever give up your belief that you can become a player. And again, it comes back to your toolbox, building your toolbox. And I'm on my A licence at the minute as well, and there's some great stuff on there about self-awareness. You have to be self-aware of where you are at as a player, also as a parent, because there's times where you might need to say to your child, look, if you really want this. I mean, there was a great interview with Robin van Persie, top player in the world, telling his kid, don't be blaming your coach, don't be blaming your teammates, don't be blaming me, your dad or your mum. It's you. If you want it, go and get it. Go and train like a beast. Go and work hard and go and add to your toolbox day after day. And again, going back to the live sessions that I'm doing, I'm trying to give kids the toolbox with the left foot and the right foot, because ball mastery and technique in this country is massively, massively underrated. You will go abroad, and I've been to a lot of places abroad to watch training, some of the top countries in the world, Ajax being one of them, and they are massive on technique, massive on it. So that is probably the biggest thing what I would say. And I've gone off on a tangent there, Spencer, but that would be my advice. There's only 2 or 3 of us that made it and went on. So that gives you an indication, really. Man U or Man City? Man U. Archie wants to know who was the toughest goalkeeper you came up against. Definitely Edwin van der Sar. One of the world's greats, in my opinion. Top keeper. Have you ever played at Goodison Park? Yes, I did play at Goodison Park in the Carling Cup. And we lost, I think it was 3-0 on the evening for Stockport, but great experience. Place was a great venue to play at. Termarsh. And any of the lads you trained gone on to do well in league? So I only started coaching back in 2014-15 properly. So there's quite a few kids that I'm coaching now. They're just getting to like the under-16s pro level now. So it'll be very interesting to see how they go on. But certainly all my academy kids at Forza, so the Forza Academy kids, and some that I've been working with over the past few years, you know, if they work their feet, they work the ball mastery, and they're prepared to outwork their opponent, I'm sure they'll go on and do good things in the game. But again, it'll be down. I can sit here and say it's about me as a coach, and it ain't about me as a coach. I'm giving them the tools to go and put in their toolbox. It's always going to be down to the player and how they respond to the environment that they're in. Scrolling through, Rosie wants to know what's the best goal you've scored. Best ever goal I've scored. I think you might say I've put it on Twitter and Facebook a few times. So that I scored a volley. We were 1-0 down. This was the promotion season at QPR. We were 1-0 down. Half time, and Mick McCarthy's give us an absolute roasting at half time. I think it was about 40 seconds into the second half. I hit an absolute peach of a volley away at QPR, and you know, place erupted. So that was probably one of my favourite goals. Scored a couple good ones for Stockport. One of my favourite ones actually is probably my daughter Lily was born on the Friday. And for Yeovil, I scored an 89th minute equaliser the following day after being up for around 24 hours. And if anyone remembers Babetto, there was a load of us doing the Babetto celebration in thoughts of us just having my baby girl just born. Dwayne Parchment, how did you cope with the fans, good and bad? I think when you have the... listen... Certainly at Sunderland, I think if anyone's watched the programmes recently on Netflix, it does show that there is a good and a bad side to the fans up there, because literally we were a young group of players mixed with, you know, some experience, but a lot of us young ones like myself, Dean Whitehead, Liam Lawrence, Neil Collins, Chris Brown. We were all young lads coming through, but we were part of the squad that won the league the previous season. So naturally, it was going to take us time to adjust to the Premier League, playing against multi-million-pound stars. But I do remember we played Arsenal away at Highbury, and we were in the airport waiting to get back home, and the fans started giving us all a little bit of stick, and you have to deal with it. You have to take the good and the bad, unfortunately. And that I do see, you know, why some players switch off from it, because it is difficult sometimes. You know, Kelvin Davis that year took a lot of stick, whereas the previous season before we bought him, I think he was the Championship goalkeeper of the year. So going back to it, it just shows as a player, don't ever rest on your laurels. Don't stand still. Be the best you can be every single day, and keep challenging yourself. Jody Driver, what was the most important thing you brought to a team? I think the most important thing I brought to a team, if you ever watched me play, was I had the ability to take the ball from one end of the pitch to the other, unlock a defence with a dribble, and obviously my assist side of it, certainly towards the back end of my career. In struggling sides in League One, I was always one of the top assists makers in the division. When I was in the Championship and playing in the Premier League, again, I think my first game in the Premier League, I got an assist. And that was what, to be honest, I didn't score enough goals. And when, probably going back to a question before, regrets in football, I maybe should have focused on that side a bit more. But I didn't have access to some of these coaches that you do nowadays, like your one-to-one coaches and things like that. So, you know, again, going back to your toolbox, one-to-one coaching is a good aspect to really nail down weaknesses in your game. Also, there are a lot of one-to-one coaches now starting to earn a living, and I think that academies, clubs should bring in one-to-one coaches and bring them in full-time, because there's too many kids for me going into academies, and before you know it, they've been dropped and it's kind of see you later. And I don't agree with that. I think if you're making a commitment to a parent and a child to travel over to wherever it is, they should get 2, 3, 4 years, and it's then down to you as a football club. And if you fail them after that 3 or 4 years because they've not worked hard enough within your system, that's down to the club sometimes. It's not always down to the player. So, yeah, kind of went off on a tangent there. Who was the best player you played against? So Charlie, Ronaldo, obviously, for what he's done in the game. Wayne Rooney, top player. Paul Scholes, top player. Trying to think who else. Jermaine Defoe was a very good player for Tottenham Hotspur. Steven Gerrard played. So I'm just moving on to Rose's question. Have you ever played against Steven Gerrard? Yep. Steven Gerrard played in that game I played against Liverpool. Again, he was a good player, but I just felt Scholes on the day was one of the best players I've ever played against, without a doubt. Carson wants to know what was the easiest team to play. I think every game, it's difficult. You can't ever say what's the easiest team you've ever played against. I think certainly the levels that I played at, it was always a challenge week in, week out, and certainly the teams that I played for, because everyone wanted to beat you if you were Sunderland, a big team in the Championship. So it's a tough one to answer that, and I'll probably get told off if I say the wrong team. Who do you think is the best footballer in the world? Alfie Kelly from Horbury Town. Best footballer in the world, I think definitely Messi and Ronaldo. Between the two, they're up there at the minute, aren't they? But Jack said if you could give him one piece of advice, what would it be apart from keep going? Add to your toolbox. Get as many touches of the football and get comfortable with both feet, all areas of your feet, so bottom, outside, inside, things like that. And also, you've got to work harder than your teammates. They are your teammates, but you have to work harder than your teammates. See it as a challenge, outworking them every single day. What was the toughest league you played in, bar the Premier League? Championship's a very, very, very tough league. Very tough league. Scrolling through a few more. When you played against Ronaldo, did you win or lose? We lost 3-1 to Man United. Best manager was Mick McCarthy by a country mile. So Mick was certainly kind of going on into my kind of coaching career. He was honest. And he would just tell you the way it is. And I think that's the way you want life to run sometimes, because if people don't tell you the way things are, how can you get better and not be honest with you? So I remember Mick pulled me just before he got sacked at Sunderland, and he said, look, I want you to go out on loan to Leicester, because it's looking like we're going to get relegated, but you're going to be a big player for us next season, and I need you to get experience. I need to shelter you a little bit from everything what's going on. And he didn't need to do that, and then obviously he got sacked, I think, the following week, and he called me up and just thanked me for everything, and forever grateful. He's a top manager, and I did have Roy Keane as a manager as well. So for me, them two were night and day. A very, very good man manager was Mick McCarthy, and would get the best out of any player, in my opinion. And I think he's had a fantastic career as a manager, and something that certainly in my coaching career, for those who don't know, I was manager at Ossett United, so I had to help build the club up. And I was manager at Ossett Albion. So Ossett United last season, we went on in my first season with the help of some great coaches I had alongside me, my assistant Paul Quinn, and we went on and won the County Cup against guys who were 2 divisions higher than us, and then we finished in the playoff. That was a great achievement for me. Also linking schools in, so it was a real good focus for me in my coaching career to get onto that next step, which I'll take some kind of questions on my coaching side now if you want to ask me on that side of it. One more question here. Alex, did you feel the MLS was an easier level, or did you face different challenges? The MLS was a fantastic league. Quatemar Blanco was a player who was 40 at the time. You might remember him from the 1994 USA World Cup. There were some fantastic players out there. Juan Pablo Angel, David Beckham, players like that. Bit of Ribena there. There was some great players out there. So it's getting stronger all the time. We had a sellout every time, 21,000 sellout, and it was, it's a fantastic league. So anyone wanting a different challenge, it's not easy just to go out there and get in. There's some top players out there at the minute that will be coming over here into England soon. Right, do you think academy systems at the professional clubs have adverse effects on quality of grassroots leagues? Yeah, sometimes, Vicky. I think the academy systems can have an adverse effect on the grassroots leagues, but I also think, and this is me being honest, I don't think the grassroots leagues do enough now. I think they've got to be a bit more outside of the box. So I also have a company called 3v3 Soccer UK, which is I've tried to promote it around the country. We had the finals at Man City last year. I've tried to speak to the FAs about it and say, look, you need to incorporate 3v3 football in a structure of kids coming through at a young age. But they don't want to know. Yet you'll go to an academy and, you know, we'll go into Man City or Liverpool or Man United and we'll play 3v3s and 4v4s and things like that. So I think it's a bit of give and take from both the academy system and the grassroots. I think a little bit more working together by the two of them might help promote healthier systems potentially. Michael Byrne, how much extra training did you do when you finished training? I tried to keep as fit as I can, but it is difficult, especially when you're coaching, because your whole kind of system and your mindset changes. You have to work in a different area then. Just trying to, there's a lot of messages here. What's the best advice to give? I think I've answered that. Coaching wise, being a winger, did you find it harder to coach players in other positions? Now, no. And the reason being, you've got to go away and study the game. And another reason, I played a lot of positions in my career, especially towards the back end. But I always made a point of asking questions and trying to play different positions in training as well. Towards the back end of my career, I ended, you know, I know a lot of you are Leeds fans. I know Lee, who's asked a question, you're a big Leeds fan. But Luke Ayling came to us on loan at Yeovil. And Luke, he played, I remember he came on as sub at centre mid at the time, and I was playing left wing. Following season, we were playing we were playing three centre halves. He was playing right side of the three, and I was playing right wing back. Sometimes I'd play left wing back. Sometimes I'd play as a number 10. Again, going back to your toolbox, managers love players that can play different positions. And if you add to that toolbox, you've got more opportunity to stay in the team playing a number of positions. So going back to the coaching question, I learnt to play a number of positions so I can see the game in different areas. And also it comes down to studying. What is your so Andrew Suter, good to have you on, mate. Hope your A licence is going well. What's the long-term aim as a coach now? I'll make no bones about it. I want to be either a first-team coach or assistant coach or first-team manager in the professional game. I've had 2.5 great years at Ossett. I resigned from a post in November just due to building my academy up, and you know, I love my academy, love the kids that I've got at Forza football, and it's going from strength to strength. But I want to give them a pathway, and I want to give them opportunities in football as well. But I know that by the time I'm 40, I want to be in the professional game full time. And I've had opportunities, but I haven't taken them at the minute because I don't feel they're right for me at the minute. And certainly finishing my A licence off now is a big part, which I'm due to finish that in the summer alongside yourself, Andy. Noah Crawshaw, what would like to ask the best way to become versatile in different positions? Just playing them, getting an understanding of them. I think going back to the last question I answered before. Here's a good question. Logan, what inspired you to become a coach? Who did you look up to when you were starting? So certainly Mick McCarthy, like I said, the coaches you come across. Terry Skiverton was a fantastic coach. Nathan Jones as well at Yeovil. Nathan Jones went on to obviously a great, well, he's still having a good career. Terry Skiverton's having a great managerial and coaching career as well. So that's fantastic to see them two doing well. So I did look up to them, but could probably do with touching base with them, talking to him. Paul Warren, who's a Rotherham manager currently, I went over to him a couple of times. He's good to bounce off every now and again. So I think having a mentor and keeping in contact with current managers and people who have been there and done it is a big thing. And I know at the minute I'd like to think, you know, I'm a mentor to some parents and some of their kids. you know, I know Spencer Harrison's watching this. We talk a lot about his young lad Alfie Harrison, Mark Robertson, who's the lad's also at Man City in the under-18s. We bounce a lot off each other. He asks a lot of questions. He was a pro himself. Marshall Sharp with Archie Sharp, and I want people to come to me and I want people to ask questions, because that's what I'm here for, is to give you my advice. But you have to have a self-thinking individual. So your son has to think for himself, or your daughter. They have to think for themselves, because I know the girls' game is getting bigger and bigger now. So if you have a self-aware player or a self-aware child, they will have more opportunity to be aware when things aren't going right. How do I put it right? How do I get better? Luke, as a coach, what are you looking at in a player? First of all, hard work, mentality towards what you are doing. That means when you're training, you're putting the work in. I don't mean you don't have a laugh and a joke and things like that, but when you're training, you never get that training session back. So be the best in that training session. And if your teammates are messing about and things like that, and it's time to focus on yourself. Focus on yourself. Don't let anybody try and guide you away from what you want to get out of that session. Because trust me now, if I could go back, every session counts. Michael Byrne, do you remember when you pied me on my debut? So funny story there. Played away at Notts County, so my good friend there, Michael Byrne, made his debut. And again, going back to the way I used to play, we were playing Notts County away and carried the ball all the way, one end of the pitch to the other, cut it inside to him. To be fair, he scored a great goal. And I'm waiting, he's running over to me and I put my hand up for an high five. He's ran right past me, straight to the crowd and celebrated. So I'll never forget that, Bernie, never forget it. Any other questions on the coaching side? Jack Jones, can I ask how old you are now, Andy? So I'm 37 now, I think, or 38, 37 I think. Yeah, 37 now, so, you know, trying to get as much experience in the coaching world. Like I said, I've been an assistant manager, I've been a first team manager, and I love it. You know, I love all types of coaching, and I believe, and this is a big point for those that are wanting to get in coaching. All right, if you're a coach, and in my opinion, you can't coach kids that are under sixes, and you just want to work with older players, that isn't a coach to me. A coach to me is somebody that can relate to any player at any age and put on a session for them. That is what a coach is to me. And if you ask anybody that works with me on the coaching side, my under fives, my under sixes, all the way up to first team level, I will put on sessions that will relate to them, but I will make players that are self-aware and self-thinking players of how can they get better. All right, so that is a big point for me in terms of the coaching side of it. Termash, have you had a lad you coached thought you should train to be better in another position? Yeah. So basically, what you're asking there, Ter, is have I had any players that I should train them to be in a different position? I think and certainly when I was manager at first team level, it's important to have players that can have a good understanding of other positions, because you never know when there's going to be a sending off, an injury. So having players that can play a number of positions is really important. But I had a player last year that, in my opinion, you know, wanted to play up front, but he just wasn't going to get enough goals. But his better position was probably on the right of the defence. In midfield, which he didn't agree with that. But then back end of the season, he saw the light because we ended up winning a trophy, and he had a fantastic season getting goals. In your opinion, what age do kids start to fit into specific positions? I don't think that ever stops, really, Matt. I think they'll get a position that they're comfortable with, right? And this is a great word in football. Kids like to be comfortable, but how do you get better? So when you're talking about a kid at the age of 12, and I have it, they'll go, but I'm a centre forward, Andy, and right, that's fine, but I want you to play centre half today, because I want you to see what it looks like when our centre halves get the ball, and that centre half doesn't make the run or doesn't come to show and get the ball to feet. So I certainly think when you get to around under 11s, under 12s, they need to start focusing on 2 or 3 strong positions that they can really focus on. All right. I think I'll tell you what, we've gone way over there. I said 30 minutes. I'll do a couple more questions. Coaching v managing, similarity and differences. I think you've got to be able to do both, but I think if you can't do both, it's important that you have somebody by your side that can do the coaching. Managing is a lot day-to-day stuff, getting players in, getting sometimes having to deal with press, just things that you wouldn't imagine. Agents are a big thing, emails about players and things like that. So whereas coaching, you just fully focus on, there's my session, and I love being on the pitch, but I also like the managing side of it. And anyone that's been part of the squads that I've put together, you work very, very hard, and your standards are through the roof in training and on a match day. So, all right. So I'll just drop it there. I want to thank you all for joining in. What I will say is I'm going to start doing some live interviews. So I've got quite a few ex-pros, ex-players. I've got some managers lined up. So I will put them out. So if you can support that as much as you can. It's been great talking with you all. And I really, really appreciate your support in these tough times. If you can do anything for me, just keep sharing the Forza page. I know someone's just asked the question, why did you start Forza? And I started Forza because for me, I want to give kids the opportunity to get high level coaching and through a coaching system that I've designed, and I want to see how many kids can go on and improve themselves in the game, whether that's coaching, whether that's managing, whether that's playing the game, whatever it may be. I want to give opportunities with Forza football, and it's not always becoming a pro at the top level. It could be at League 1, the Championship, League 2, and even non-league level. Great opportunity, great stage to work on. So thank you very, very much for your time. You can share this to people. Hopefully I've given you an insight into stuff. The questions have been great. We've kind of gone off on a tangent at times. Horbury Town, thank you. So have a great weekend. I'll put a couple of challenges out for the kids over the weekend. All I can do is say keep sharing that. Check us out on Instagram. I'm just trying to build the profile of us. I want to be back coaching as soon as we can, but at the minute, if this is what we've got the best, it's great keeping in touch with you all, and I thank you all for your questions. All right? Give us a heart if you've enjoyed watching it. Let's get all them hearts there. Let's make it work. Thank you. Cheers, Jodie. I can do another one of this as well, so we could focus on specific areas. So just come up with some ideas, feedbacks. But again, thank you very much, and I will see you all Monday at 1 PM for the younger group and 2 PM for the older group. Thanks a lot for your time. Bye.